So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and Apple released iPadOS 15.2 Beta 4 to all developers yesterday, and we're going to talk about some of the new features that came out, because most of it was bug fixes and improvements, and there's one big bug fix that's been plaguing a lot of people on the iOS and iPadOS side, so we're going to find out what that is. But Apple did take a nice little 17-day hiatus between beta updates, which is a little bit unusual, so let's see exactly what we got going on with this update. Let's get it going. So let's get right into this video, everybody. The first thing that I like to do is actually show you guys the actual size of the update. So here we have iPadOS 15 Developer Beta 4. We're looking at about 376.5 megabytes. So give yourselves anywhere from 750 to 1 total gigabyte of space in order to get this installed and get it installed correctly. And one of the first things that I look at when updating to a new beta is the size of the update. And the reason is because the larger the update, the more new and actual tangible features we're going to get with this update. So here, this is actually one of the smaller updates that we're getting, so don't expect too much. This is going to be, again, we're on a beta 4, so we're going to get more bug performance issues and performance updates and making sure that everything is ready to go, so when it does release to the public, it is nice and ready and there aren't any issues when it comes to updating. The next thing we're going to look at is actually the build number. So we go into the About, go to the software version, we are on 15.2 19C 5050B. So the closer and closer we get to that letter A and then finally get rid of that lowercase letter means we're finally going to get the update and get it released to the public. So we're getting closer and closer to that RC edition and that public release edition, which should be coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Again, Apple took about a 17-day break between Beta 3 and Beta 4, which is one of the longer breaks that I've seen, but it's probably twofold. One has to be because it fell during that Thanksgiving break where kind of the US takes off for that entire week or that weekend. And then also, I do think that because this beta program has been overall very stable, there isn't too much that they needed to do. So now let's talk about exactly what they did update. So the number one thing that they fixed was this auto brightness feature, which I noticed happened a ton on my iPhone especially. It happened a couple times on my iPad, not too often, but there was an auto brightness issue. It was having an issue where if you go into a brightly lit room where then the ambient sensor should take over and turn your brightness all the way up so you can see it a little bit better, that wasn't working. So the ambient light sensor was kind of getting wonky, and then when you went into a darkly lit room, the brightness would turn all the way up, which was unnecessary and a waste of battery and could strain your eyes, honestly, if you're in a dark room with a very brightly lit screen. So what Apple did was they added a feature into the accessibility settings, which I don't really know why they added to accessibility and not into this little section right here. But if you go into accessibility, go into your display and text, we now have a toggle down here for auto brightness. So turning off auto brightness may affect battery life and long-term display performance. So I'd like that Apple kind of added that in, and hopefully that fixes the bug, but I'll report back in a week with a follow-up video to see if we're still getting that weird kind of auto brightness shift and the unnecessary shifts in auto brightness, because that was a little bit annoying, again, especially on the iOS side. On iPadOS, I'm usually inside, my lights are normally kind of in the same type of level brightness, so the ambient light sensor doesn't really need to take over too much. But with the iPhone, when you go out at night and then you're outside in the day and you go into different rooms, that ambient light sensor should help you, again, save battery and not ruin your battery, and then also, ruin your screen with all that brightness. The next thing that I noticed was, again, with the notification center. So with notification summary, Apple reverted back into this little stack situation for notification summary, versus before they had that weird collage, which I honestly really didn't like. So I'm glad that they went back to this, because you can just go in here, open it up, you have your little options with your 3 dots to mute for an hour, you can mute it for as long as you want, deliver immediately, clear the notifications, turn off the notifications totally. So I guess Apple's just kind of A/B testing with all the developers and in the beta program to see what we like better, because that collage, again, it was around for beta 2 and beta 3, but now with beta 4 we went back to this normal stack and this list, which I obviously prefer. And then the last thing that we noticed was inside of the fitness application, I already opened it up unfortunately, so the splash screen is gone, but you should be greeted with a splash screen, which will then ask you if you want to share your data with Apple Fitness to improve, Apple's data collection or whatever they want to improve, right? But again, it's just a choice if you want to share it or not, and a new splash screen for the fitness app. And then the last thing we got to talk about is battery life. Let's see how we've been doing with battery life overall over the last week, over the last few days. So here we're doing about an hour and 34 minutes of screen on time. What I like to look at is the individual days. So on a day like, let's say Tuesday, we had almost 5 hours of screen on time. But look at that, with less than 75% usage. So that's always a good sign. If we're doing 5 hours of battery with only 75% usage or a little bit less than that, we should be getting that 7 to 8 hour battery life that Apple's been talking about. So then if we go down here, we had 2 hours and 50 minutes of screen on time. That took about 70 or 60% also. So on a day like this, I probably could have gone 5 to 6 hours, but again, very LumaFusion heavy, YouTube streaming heavy, Affinity Photo. So overall, I'm liking the direction that the battery is going in. On a day like this, again, a lot of it was on the home and lock screen and LumaFusion, but you could see 4 hours and 33 minutes of screen on time, but then also 4 hours and 15 minutes of screen off time. But we only took up about 30 to 35% of battery, so battery life overall seems to finally be improving a little bit. I would like to see the science behind the screen off time right here. I want to know exactly what that means and why they're counting that, because screen off time, does that mean when my actual iPad is shut with the Magic Keyboard, or if I just leave it on and open? I want to know what that screen off time really entails. But again, battery life seems to be improving slowly but surely, and ideally by the time the 15.2 public release is out, we're getting that 8 to 10 hours of battery life on these iPad Pros, especially the new ones. The M1 iPad Pros should get you that 8 to 10 hours of battery life no matter what you're doing. But that's going to do it for the battery life. Let's get out of here and go to the normal view. So that is pretty much going to do for this video, everybody. Like you saw, there weren't too many new features, if any at all. Again, this is a beta 4 update, so by this time, Apple's more fixing everything that needs to be fixed. No new features are being added. It's going to be more bug fixes, performance updates, and improvements, things like that. So as we move further and further into the beta program, these things are not going to be more feature sets. Those feature sets are going to be saved for the 0.1 updates and the beta 1 updates. So just keep that in mind when you are in the beta program. So this one was very focused on performance enhancements, bug fixes, like we saw that auto brightness update. Apple's also been toggling back and forth with how they want to show off that new notification summary in the beginning and at the end of the day, or whenever you set it up. I'm more of a fan of how they're doing it currently versus that collage style, like those blocks that were kind of just thrown all over the place, which they're doing with 15.1 and 15.1.1. But again, that's just what Apple is doing. We are getting a little bit more battery life, which I am liking, so hopefully that's a nice little reminder or maybe a foreshadow into battery life really coming back into it. And hopefully Apple starts to focus a little bit more on the iPad. I wanted to get that universal control. I want to get more of those features that Apple promised us. And then also leave a comment down below. What are you guys looking for with an iPadOS 16 update? I know it's still very early. We're not going to see anything until June around WWDC time. But there's already a nice little wish list of things that people want on iPadOS 16. And it seems like Apple's kind of forgotten about the iPad with iPadOS 14 and iPadOS 15. Not too many new features, and the one flagship feature, that universal control with iPadOS 15, is still nowhere to be found. So I'm hoping with iPadOS 15.3, we're going to get something with that universal control. But that's going to do it for this video. Leave some comments down below if you guys did update to the beta 4 program. Are you guys on the developer program? Are you on the public developer program? And like I said, leave some comments down below about an iOS and iPadOS 16 wish list. My number one wish list item has to be real secondary monitor support and maybe some floating windows, but let me know if you have something specific, because I'm always curious to know what people use their iPads for and how they can improve their iPad experience with a simple update. But that's going to do it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out of here. Peace.